All right. Hey, hi, hello, everyone. My name is Niger Alim Jules, and I'm the Deputy Director for the USAID Donald M. Payne International Development Fellowship Program administered by Howard University. I'd like to first begin by thanking you all for joining us this evening for our Payne Fellowship Overview session. We hope you find the presentation informative as you look to complete or begin your application for the 2025 fellowship cycle. And with that, let's begin, shall we? To begin, the Donald M. Payne International Development Fellowship Program is sponsored by the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, which is the United States agency that leads international development and humanitarian assistance efforts to partner countries. USAID works together with individuals, communities, and countries around the world to improve everyday lives. Their efforts provide humanitarian assistance, reduce poverty, strengthen democratic governance, advance economic opportunities, and help achieve progress beyond programs. Now that you learned a little about USAID, let's discuss the Payne Fellowship. So what is the Payne Fellowship Program exactly? Well, the Donald Payne Graduate Fellowship Program, again, is administered at Howard University under a cooperative agreement with USAID. The Payne Fellowship purpose is to recruit and select bright minds for career in the Foreign Service of USAID. Foreign Service officers apply their technical knowledge, program design, management, and evaluation expertise to promote and demonstrate democratic values abroad and advance a free, peaceful, and prosperous world. Foreign Service officers work with a diverse range of colleagues in environments that can be both unfamiliar and a little bit challenging. Also, please know that the Payne Fellowship, we seek individuals from all educational backgrounds and prepare them for a career for the Foreign Service of USAID. This slide shows the USAID Foreign Service career backstops. For those of you listening and via phone, the USAID backstops include program officer, executive officers, financial management officers, agricultural officers, economists, private enterprise officers, contracting officers, engineering officers, environmental and natural resource officers, population health and nutrition officers, education officers, humanitarian assistance officers, and crisis stabilization and governance officers. Those awarded the Payne Fellowship select an intended career backstop upon entry into the fellowship. Please be sure to visit www.paynefellows.org if you have not done so already to learn more about the USAID career backstops prior to submitting your application to the Payne Fellowship Program. The resource I dropped in the chat earlier is also available for those of you who did not catch that on the Payne Fellowship website, which is again www.paynefellows.org. Please note that the fellowship experience ultimately culminates with employment in USAID's Foreign Service. All Payne Fellows have a 5-year service agreement to the U.S. Agency for International Development upon successful completion of graduate school, the fellowship, and Foreign Service entry requirements. So just remember, if you get the fellowship, you get the job. Now, for the moment you all have been waiting for. The program incentives. The Payne Fellowship will award up to 30 fellowships valued at $104,000 to pay tuition, mandatory fees, living expenses, and summer internships over 2 years for the 2025 fellowship cycle. The award breakdown works out to be $24,000 per year for tuition and fees. Please note that some of our graduate program partners do provide additional supplemental financial assistance to fellows who are admitted to their programs. The fellowship also provides $18,000 per year for a living stipend, which is directly issued to the awarded fellow. The fellowship also provides up to $10,000 per year towards summer internships, and that includes the housing and round-trip transportation within that $10,000 there. The first being a 9-week internship on Capitol Hill the first summer prior to starting graduate school. And then the second being a 10-week overseas internship at a USAID mission abroad and between the first and second year of graduate school. So if you're still on the call, that means that either the career with USAID is something that interests you or the program incentive excites you. And if that is indeed the case, then what you must know for the Payne Fellowship is that the following eligibility requirements do apply. You must have and possess U.S. citizenship by the application deadline, which for the 2025 application cycle is October 24th, 2024 by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I cannot stress that enough for those of you joining from different time zones or abroad even. Again, that deadline for U.S. citizenship must be by the application deadline, which again is October 24th, 2024 by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All applicants should possess a 3.2 cumulative GPA. And all applicants should also be planning to enroll in a 2-year graduate program for beginning fall 2025 in an area of relevance to USAID's foreign service. So harkening back to the career backstops, right? Also to note, 2 letters of recommendation are required for applicants, one letter being from a former professor or faculty member, and another from a community leader. For those of you who may be alum or several years removed from your undergraduate experience, one of the letters of recommendation may also come from a supervisor who can, again, they should be able, to speak to your preparedness for graduate school and your interest in a career with either USAID or international development. We do require official transcripts from all colleges and university attended. If you have to think about it, oh, I only took a course or I only took 2 courses there, then we'll probably require request that transcript from you as well. So be sure to begin accumulating all of your official transcripts from colleges and universities attended, and that includes study abroad and any semesters abroad, et cetera, there as well. We do require also a personal statement, so in 600 words or less, detailing the reasons for applying, your interests in foreign affairs and development, and a commitment to pursue a career in the foreign service of USAID. The Payne Fellowship program also requires a statement of financial need, where in 400 words or less, that indicates the applicant's need for financial assistance to continue graduate studies, including an explanation of the financial assistance received during undergraduate studies, overall and education-related debt, and your abilities or plans to pay for graduate school independently. And lastly, of course, be sure to visit apply.paynefellows.org to begin the application if you have not already begun to do so, and submit by October 24th, 2024, 11:59 p.m. Eastern. So for the 2025 Payne Fellowship intake period, the selections and onboarding timeline is as follows. Again, our application is currently open. It opened July 19th, and the application deadline, stressing it, is October 24th, 2024 by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The selection panel will select the finalists, meaning that the finalists will be notified December 5th, 2024. And you will be invited, those selected as finalists will be invited for a virtual writing assessment on January 6th, and then for their interviews and group dynamic exercise between January 21st to the 24th, 2025. That is also the period in which we expect to send out the notifications and decisions for the 30 awards for the Payne Fellowship 2025 cycle. Those awarded the fellowship will begin orientation at Howard University in late May 2025. And then following that 1-week orientation on Howard University's campus, they will begin their congressional internship same summer 2025, prior to beginning their first year of graduate school. Fellows will do their overseas internship again, summer 2026, which is in between the first and second year of graduate school. And then lastly, they will onboard USAID as a Foreign Service Officer in summer 2027 upon completing their graduate degree programs. Okay. I know that I have a couple of questions here, so I do want to just take a moment to pause. There is one question in the chat. Is there a certain time that needs to pass so that a recommendation from a professor can be substituted for a supervisor? No, we ask again that if you are alum, so let's say if you've graduated within the last year, and you can't find contact with faculty, or there isn't a faculty that you would want or would like to invite to recommend you strongly, and you are working in a capacity formally, right? You can advise your supervisor to write said letter of recommendation. That's a great question, Juan. Another question here in the chat. Can you specify exactly how we define a community leader as a recommender? Could this be a supervisor from an internship that one did? Yes, that's exactly that can be it as well. Think about any volunteer experience or community service work that you've done as well, where there might have been a point of contact or a supervisor above said project. That will suffice in the case, because we know that everyone's experiences are different, right? In the event that you may not have a community leader or a strong community leader that you would like to invite to recommend on your behalf, it is always recommended that you go with the strongest person within your respective community, and especially for a nationally competitive opportunity such as this, right? So if it's not a strong community leader that you know, but you have two faculty member or a manager and a supervisor, or a combination of faculty and a manager, or et cetera, from your experiences, be it professional work, volunteer, intern, externship, or your time as a student. Again, go with the strongest recommendation for this opportunity for you, right? And the biggest piece I will say about the recommenders, and I'll stop because we will have future sessions on how to ask recommenders and tips and tricks, etc. But the biggest piece is making sure that you're going again to someone who can speak to your interests and your passions and your preparedness for graduate school. Okay. I'll take one more question from the chat, and then I'm going to continue with the presentation. We do have time for a Q&A section, so don't fret. Says here, I noticed the list of universities where Payne Fellowships can apply. Are there any HBCUs on the list? So the list that is provided is not a list of universities where Payne Fellows must or can must apply, right? Payne Fellows, those awarded the Payne Fellowship, can take the funding to any US-based institution that is accredited, and as so long as the graduate degree program is full-time, traditionally in person, right? Because there are some online programs. Unfortunately, right now, the Payne Fellowship does not support online degree programs or hybrid, expressed hybrid degree programs, meaning the program itself was generally created to be a flex or hybrid of online and in person. It must be a traditionally 2-year in-person graduate degree program at a US-based institution, again, in the area of relevance of USAID's foreign service. The graduate program list is constantly expanding. So at this time, we're constantly working with different schools and institutions, and especially those that are not yet partners, to get them to come on as partners. So we always encourage prospective applicants, if there's an institution that you don't see on the list, be sure, and especially if it's one that you're considering, absolutely still apply, right? Because in the event that you are awarded the fellowship, it will be an easier conversation for our staff to have with the institution on how to bring them on, right? With that, again, everyone, I am going to hold off on the remainder of the questions in the chat, and I'm going to continue on with the presentation here, because we're nearly there. We're nearly at the end there, and there are some really good questions that are coming in, but I do want to get through this first. And speaking of graduate degrees and graduate programs, here are some of the common graduate degrees that Payne Fellows pursue to support their careers in administrative and technical area backstops, right? So everything from public administration, public policy, public health, business administration for those business minded and business students interested in international relations and global affairs, global human development, engineering, environmental science and management, economics, agricultural economics, agriculture, education, contracting, urban planning, social work. The list goes on and on and on. So a breadth of degree opportunities that you all may pursue if awarded the opportunity with the Payne Fellowship. And again, don't forget that it ultimately culminates with employment with USAID and their foreign service in one of the career backstops there. So here are some tips, actually, because I'm sure some of you are very much interested, but here are some tips on preparing competitive applications. And again, for those of you who are just joining, this session will be recorded, is recorded and will be posted to the Payne Fellowship YouTube. And we will also be doing overviews once a month leading up to the application deadline. So the next overview will be September 5th, and then there will be one on October 1st as well. And also sessions on walking you through the application and preparing for interviews. But back to the slideshow here. So some of the tips for preparing competitive applications include, of course, first and foremost, review the application requirements and ensure your eligibility to apply and prepare. Again, eligibility requirements for the Payne Fellowship Program: U.S. citizenship by the application deadline, which again is October 24th, 2024, by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? 3.2 cumulative GPA, and looking to begin a graduate program starting fall 2025 at a U.S.-based institution in an area of relevance to USAID's foreign service. Be sure to explain, again, in that statement of interest, your motivations for applying and identify your background and your experiences and skills to be a successful foreign service officer. Be sure to demonstrate your academic ability and the rigor in your studies. The application, for those who have not yet begun, does have a section for you to enter your accolades, as well as your academic courses and schoolings. Obtain strong letters of recommendation. Harking back to the earlier comments from the question, be sure again that you're going for whomever can give you the strongest recommendation, who can speak to you, your experiences, your preparedness for graduate school, your and your interest in a career in USAID's foreign service, especially. Okay. Demonstrate the need for financial assistance for graduate school. We do provide in the financial section an area for 400 words or less, where you can write provide your statement of financial need. One thing I really want to stress about that section is conveying what the numbers do not tell. Why I'm saying this is because one of the requirements in the financial section for the application is for you to upload, excuse me, your information ported from the student FAFSA, be it the student aid report or the updated version, which is now the FAFSA financial aid summary report, where your student aid index, or in the event of the older version, if you're uploading your student aid report, your SAR, the expected family contribution, the EFC numbers would be. So again, the statement of financial need should definitely be communicating whatever the numbers from the uploaded document in which you enter on that section there can't tell, as well as your ability to pay for graduate school independently and any debt or education-related debt there that you'd like to communicate to the selection panel, who takes an overall holistic approach when evaluating and considering the selection of the finalists, as well as the fellows at the final stage there. Include all relevant extracurricular, community, or volunteer experiences, and be sure to highlight your leadership roles. Can't express this enough. It is a nationally competitive fellowship competition, right? So be sure to brag a little bit about yourself. And we understand that the over the last 4 years, especially, the world has especially changed, right? So engagement in has changed as well, right? Don't be remiss to add your virtual engagement within those respective communities and the virtual programming and things that you've done as well. List all relevant college, university, or professional honors and awards. Again, there's the education section for that. And lastly, proofread all aspects of the application carefully and be sure to submit all application materials on time. On time would be by the application deadline, which is October 24th, 2024 by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. Here we have some snapshots from our 2024 fellows, some of from the most recent cohort of the Payne Fellows here in their journey. As you can see, Oswaldo went to undergrad, Texas A&M, and is now going to graduate, well, beginning graduate school at Johns Hopkins SAIS, and is going into the BS03, which is the executive office for USAID's Foreign Service. Others like Agnes as well, Villanova University, Johns Hopkins SAIS. We have a lot of Payne Fellows in the 2024 cohort going to Johns Hopkins SAIS. Fatu heading to Harvard, and is also a population health and nutrition backstop. We have Kibariti going to Yale, and environmental office, and Kamaya going to Columbia, SIPA, and is a program officer, as well as Jamal, who will also be going to Columbia SIPA and is heading into the program officer USAID backstop. So following the completion of the, again, the fellowship requirements, which is, again, the internship, the professional development that we provide, and completing their graduate degrees, Payne Fellows are inducted into USAID's Foreign Service. As a reminder, fellows become full employees of the USAID Foreign Service and have a 5-year service obligation to the agency. Okay. And with that, I will pause and stop for questions. I know that there's some in the chat here that I want to just circle back around to. Can you talk about the virtual assessment? So Tracy, we will actually do a separate session for that regarding the components. So I will not be able to talk about the virtual assessment now, but what I can tell you is that the entire selection process for the Payne Fellowship Program is a virtual selection process. What does that mean? We conduct, excuse me, we conduct the writing assessment virtually, and that is a human proctored virtual writing assessment via our system that we have procured. And then we also conduct the final round in group dynamic exercises virtually, and those are held via Zoom and scheduled there. We also provide resources for those who are selected as finalists to help them prepare for both the virtual writing proctored exercise and also the final round interview and group dynamic exercise. And again, that information is privileged to those who are selected as finalists. Another question in the chat here: if you already have a graduate degree, are you still eligible to apply for a Payne Fellowship? That's a great question. So if you already hold a graduate degree and you're looking to pursue another graduate degree, yes, you are welcome to apply to the Payne Fellowship Program. Now, with that, the second the second degree cannot be in the same track or same area of relevance as the first graduate degree. Does that make sense? So essentially, if you are going in for environmental, like if you already possess a degree in environmental sciences, right? You can't go back and get another master's degree in environment research, or like it has to be in a completely separate different area, because 9 times out of 10 your environmental science master's, at which you already possess and hold, would have already qualified you for um, to apply via the open positions for USAID, right? Possession of that master's there in that area of relevance, if you're looking to be an environmental officer, right? Now, if you have your master's in environmental science, and you're like, well, you know what, I'm actually interested in urban planning, right? And I'm looking to enter uh, uh, I forgot which backstop aligns, but I'm looking to enter into said backstop contracting or whatever have you, or whichever one aligns with urban planning. Um, um, that would be applicable, again, and you're more than welcome to apply there with that piece. Question here in the chat. So does the 5-year service obligation mean that the appointment as an FSO is time limited, or can fellows continue their service without having to recompete? So at the beginning of the fellowship, if you're awarded the fellowship, you sign a contract, and that contract that you sign is directly with the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, right? And that contract specifies that at minimum, you have to work for USAID for 5 years after completing the fellowship, i.e., 2 years for the fellowship, right? So think about 2 years getting your master's, going through the internships, the professional development, and then you on board with USAID. That starts your 5-year contract obligation there. That doesn't mean that after the 5 years you have to leave USAID. It just means that you will be eligible for tenure after that 5 years if you choose, again, depending upon your performance, your evaluations, X, Y, and Z. But yes, you and many have continued their service with USAID. Those who decide to not stay with USAID after the 5 years, they are free to leave the agency. If you leave before the 5-year service obligation, that is where you will have a repayment obligation to the agency for their support to you during the fellowship, i.e., that value of $104,000, the graduate school X, Y, and Z. So if you leave before the terms of your contract, again, and the contract is what you sign to receive the fellowship. Again, all of our fellows sign a contract with USAID agreeing to work within the agency for 5 years following completion of the fellowship, in which the agency is supporting them financially for 2 years of graduate school, the internships, the round trip transportation, the da-da-da-da-da, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, so long as you do not leave before the 5-year service obligation you're in the agency, you can go on to which many fellows have, go on to earn tenure within USAID, or again, leave after that 5-year piece. Leaving beforehand will trigger a repayment obligation directly to USAID. Okay, awesome. Okay. All right. So there's a question here on how much is the salary for people in the Foreign Service? Does the salary vary based on the type of career field a person is in? What GS level do FSOs enter as? Yes. It varies. Full transparency, so it does vary. GS 5, if I'm not mistaken, is the level that they enter as, but then from there, again, there's steps, right? From there, it will all be dependent upon education, experience, your individual background. So it is actually a little bit hard to say, and especially with regards to the Payne Fellows, because all the fellows, not all the fellows are first time in college and going straight to graduate school. And many have, worked a number of years and then applied for the fellowship, or worked 1 year and then applied to the fellowship. So everyone's experience is different, but GS5 is generally where they come in on the foreign service scale, and then the steps will be dependent upon the respective candidate's experience. Yes, okay. Uh, okay, there is a question about if you're currently in a graduate program abroad and the graduate program does not end until the end of June. Yes. So what that would mean is that you would not be eligible for this cycle of the Payne Fellowship program, as all Payne Fellows must, in order to begin the fellowship program, you must have one, you can't be in a current matriculating graduate student, right? You would have to already complete your graduate degree and then apply to the Payne Fellowship program. Again, looking to start another master's or graduate degree, 2-year master's program, fall 2025, right? Also, all of our fellows are required, again, once you accept the fellowship, they're required to begin the fellowship with orientation, again, that late May period, for 1 week orientation at Howard University, as we are the administrators, and then beginning their full-time internship on the Hill. Payne Fellows do congressional internships placed in Congress, Senate, in either the House or the Senate, or in one of the committees there. So they do that full time throughout the summer in addition to professional development. So you are expected to be available beginning full time from that late May period. Again, dates to be confirmed, will be confirmed in 2025, through the summer before you begin your graduate program. The Payne Fellowship, however, does provide deferrals in the event of military deployment. Again, for those of you who may be military or military spouse, or if you have received an ETA Fulbright. Those are the two capacities in which the Payne Fellowship provides a deferment, a limited time deferment, which is for 1 year only. After that, you will need to begin the fellowship, and if you do not begin the if you do not begin the fellowship at that time, you will have to reapply. Okay. Okay. Yes, there's a question on the different backstops. So I'm going to reshare for those of you who didn't catch the resource. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Give me 1 second here. I'm gonna reshare that resource on the backstops here. So there's some additional information there. Howard, scrolling down here. What should I put for my graduate program if I'm still deciding between multiple options? Again, you should be able to enter or fix multiple where you're considering, or put your top 2 options, right? We understand that the application stage, this stage, right? You may be just looking, or might not have even begun to look, and are waiting to hear back from the fellowship, or looking at our program offerings, right, from our partner schools before applying. So your top 2 options there. We confirm the graduate programs once we award the fellows. Once we make the award notifications in January, we work with our fellows to then capture, where all the institutions they've applied and the choices where they're actually intending on going. There's a question here on how are placements decided. Can fellows share preferences for placements? So for placements, is this for which placements exactly? Is this your congressional placements for the first internship, or is this in reference to the overseas internships in between the first and second year of graduate school? And you can come off mute as well, please. Yeah, you all don't have to type in the chat.
Yes, thank you so much for having us and hosting the session. Very informative, really excited for this cycle. And I had the question regarding placement. So that was in reference to the overseas internships and even after when you start your 5 year service requirement.
Excellent, excellent. Yes. So for the overseas placements, the overseas placements are handled directly by USAID and internally because a number of factors are involved there. The first being we have to make sure that mission can accommodate hosting a fellow, and not all missions may be able to accommodate hosting a fellow and what that entails. The second being safety of the locale in the mission and post. So that's another piece there. The placements are typically done though. However, it's not a pain point there. We do collect all of the fellows' resumes, and the resumes we have a contractor that we work with who is a former USAID employee who works with all the Payne Fellows to formulate their resumes in a way to get substantive responsive regarding from the available posts that USAID may be able to place them, right? So if your backstop, and this where it goes into your backstops, right? So if you're a program officer backstop, right? The contractor is assisting with you working on the resume to make sure that any of the available missions and posts that have a need for program officers or program officer interns, and mainly so they can provide substantive work for you all while you're out there, right? We really want you to get that experience and that exposure. They'll assist you with that piece so that way there's a proper matching on that piece. But unfortunately for the overseas piece, there is very limited room with regards to, oh yeah, I want to go to Jamaica or want to go to China or X, Y, and Z, because it ultimately is dependent upon the missions and posts and if they're able to provide proper accommodations in a substantial experience for the fellows during that time. Okay, and building off, I see, should preferences align with desired graduate field of study? And I'm thinking one that's for the overseas as well, right? So again, because we do not collect preferences per se for the overseas piece due to the considerations there, working with the contractor will be best. She'll work with you best to formulate your existing experiences and your future career, i.e., the backstop that you are approved for and will be going into, right? Once you onboard with USAID, align so that way the opportunities that are for overseas are a good match for you for foreign service backstops. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so your clarification, I'm sorry, thank you, Juan, is for the foreign service backstops. Absolutely. So if the graduate program should absolutely align with the foreign service backstop that you're looking to pursue. And reason being, and will assist in making sure that that piece does happen if you are awarded the fellowship, mainly because all of our fellows, again, once they set their intended backstop, once they're awarded the fellowship, their graduate programs are reviewed and then approved directly by the USAID backstop coordinators, who are specifying or pretty much generally saying that, yes, this degree at this institution or this academic program meets the competencies and requirements of this backstop, which is what the fellow intends on going into. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm trying to see here. Is it possible to be posted in DC for a portion of the 5 years, or are the full 5 years guaranteed to be fully overseas? It's a very good question. So yes, you will absolutely do a stint in DC, and especially dependent upon your respective backstop will determine how long of a stint you do. Full transparency, right? All of the fellows, you have to go through your training at the Foreign Service Center. Once you on board with USAID, all new hire Foreign Service officers are required to do this, even our State Department counterparts at FSI, et cetera. So you go through it, which is in DC. So you'll most likely be in DC for a period of time, usually 6 months to a year, at the beginning of your experience, mainly because of, again, the trainings that you have to go to now that you're officially a USAID employee and actually a foreign service officer at USAID, right? There's different types of trainings that you all will need to undergo. On diplomacy, the whole kit and caboodle, language trainings, depending upon where they may match you for posts, might also extend your stay in DC if it is required that you have a proficient language proficiency in Arabic or something. They will keep you in DC and train you on that piece X, Y, and Z before shipping you out there. So it really depends, but yes, you will absolutely do a portion, and especially when you first onboard, it's not like you onboard, you do a week of training, and then they're sending you overseas. No, you will have some training to do, and there will be a time where you will begin transitioning to the overseas piece, but they will acclimate you into that piece and let you know beforehand. There's also usually like a pinning day or a pinning ceremony, et cetera, where fellows at the end of their FSC, the training, right, at the end of the training cohort or whatever, you find out where you go or where your first post is. Now, the first post, please note, everyone, that the first post is directive, meaning that it is at the direction of the agency. You do not determine the said first post. Now, they will collect preferences, I believe, but again, it is at the direction of the agency, right? Agency needs. After your first post is typically usually when you can begin the bidding process in your career. And what does that mean? That means that you are bidding to work for the next year at mission of China. So if you want to go to China, like, oh, okay, you know what? I actually want to work this year as an executive officer in China at that mission, or in South Africa, or, X, Y, and Z. And again, there'll be uh, additional sessions, future sessions that will really get into the career of USAID and life as a Payne Fellow, which I advise all of you to check our website, calendars for those sessions, and to join those sessions, because they will talk in depth about what does the career actually look like, right? And then also, what does it mean? What does that look like as being a Payne Fellow or a Payne alum at that stage? Uh, okay, let me see if there are any. Okay, language training aspect, other opportunities. Okay, so there's a question here. Can you talk more about the language training aspect? Are there opportunities for foreign language development if you already speak other languages or want to pick up another? Absolutely. The Foreign Service of the United States is very big on language training, and training individuals who may already have language proficiency or a secondary language or third language, right, under their belt in a different language. Because the more you have, the more places that you may be eligible to bid or to go, right? Because dependent upon the post, there might be a requirement or a proficiency requirement to some respect, and especially in dealing with foreign nationals who work with USAID at post and some of the implementing partners abroad. So there is absolutely an opportunity. That's what the Foreign Service Center, they provide these trainings and things like that to help prepare the USAID FSOs prior to those pieces there. One of the other things, use your graduate school to learn, a language as well. If there's a language that you already are, you have studied and you want to get stronger in, et cetera, because your language proficiency is going back to the salary conversation, right? One of the things, everyone's different, right? Your language skills and your language proficiency is also can be a consideration, uh, excuse me, in your salary determination once you're starting those conversations directly with USAID, because again, you'll be working for them. So that piece is handled with their HR. Um, there's so essentially to say yes, there's many opportunities for foreign language development, and if you already speak other languages and you want to pick up another one, there absolutely is opportunities, especially once you enter the foreign service of USAID. But at the graduate fellowship level, right, that opportunity would be, and we strongly encourage again, it to be at the graduate level, right? So making sure that you are, taking a language in your graduate program, and simply and especially because um, uh, your the languages you may know and your proficiency in languages can bode well in that piece when it comes time to the salary towards the onboarding with USAID. Um, are USAID fellows considered direct hire employees during the 5-year period for purpose of benefits? So USAID, so Payne Fellows, right, become USAID employees at the end once they onboard with USAID. So once again, if you get the fellowship, you get the job. So once you complete your fellowship requirements, the 2 internships, you graduate from graduate school and you start FSC, you start you get your assignment details to Washington, and they're saying, okay, you're coming here, and this is day 1 of your employment with us, etc. That is when you become you're a full hire on USAID side. Yes, and again, you're a foreign service officer, so you will be getting full benefits of what that makeup and what that means, right? So that includes health, benefits abroad, housing, those of you with families, tutors, schooling for your children, and things like that. And again, later conversation, but we do walk through the gambit of some of the benefits that are offered and extended to foreign service officers, because it's not exclusive to just USAID, right? But to all the agencies with regards to who are participating in the foreign service. Okay. Are applicants at a disadvantage if they aren't bi or multilingual? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We have many. I don't know if any of you gotten a chance to review some of the fellow directories on our website. We've had many fellows who are first generation college students, never native, born and raised in US, no other languages, no exposure to other countries, never traveled outside of the US, etc. And obviously they're fellows, and some of them have already they're alum now, and are working for USAID, right? But the language skills are the pieces that you develop, again, graduate school, and also as it may arise or as it may need for your job or your position within the agency, right? So dependent upon where they send you, or dependent upon where you may bid. And please note, just because you've been on a place that you speak the language to, sometimes the way the gods of the world may work is to purposely put you in a place where you do not know the language, right? So you purposely pick up an additional language. So don't worry on if you have small skills or no skills at all with regards to language. Those are the things that you will be developing, especially again in graduate school, and then the FSC can assist with that piece as well. Okay. Question here: can international experiences for the purpose of applying for the fellowship include work experience? Yes, absolutely. Work experiences that wasn't, yes, absolutely. Yeah. And especially for those of you who have extensive work experience, who have lived, worked out of the country. Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what that international experience would be one. Do I have any other questions, comments, or concerns? Okay. Um, the program benefits. Yes, I can discuss the program benefits. Let me go back to sorry, that slide there. For those of you again who joined a little later, you will be able to find the recording of this presentation within 48 hours on the Payne Fellowship YouTube channel. You can find our social media handles all on our website, again, which is www.paynefellows.org. Going back, program incentives, we're awarding up to 30 fellowships valued at $104,000 that assists to pay for tuition, mandatory fees, living expenses, and 2 summer internships, excuse me, over the 2 years. Again, that's $24,000 per year for tuition and mandatory fees. That 24,000 is issued directly to the graduate institution. So they invoice Payne Fellowship directly. We pay the 24,000 up to 24,000 per year because, again, in some cases the tuition may be under our aid. In some cases, they may provide additional supplemental funding, which may meet the full requirement of their tuition if it is over our assistance. We also provide 18,000 per year, and that is a direct living stipend for the fellow. So that is issued directly to you all at 9,000 per academic semester, which is usually 2. And for those who may have like a 3rd semester, unfortunately, no, you only get 9,000 at the in August, and then usually in December, we'll send the other 9,000 piece there. And then again, that up to $10,000 per year towards summer internship, which includes housing and round trip transportation in that $10,000 amount. And then less those items, we issue a direct stipend to the fellow. Question here, can you be a recent graduate? Yes, absolutely. The eligibility requirements for the fellowship: U.S. citizenship by the application deadline, October 24th, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3.2 cumulative GPA, and planning to enroll in a 2-year full-time graduate program at a U.S.-based institution in an area of relevance to USAID's Foreign Service for fall 2025. So as long as you're looking to begin a master's graduate degree program in fall 2025, i.e. recent grads, those who have just graduated, you're more than welcome to apply, as well as our alum. Question here, at what point are fellows processed for security clearances? So the security clearance process starts at onboarding. Our fellows, again, are notified. I'm going to go to the selections timeline here for you all. And after the last day of interviews, we typically tend to get the selection from our selection panels, and then we send the notification out immediately. Following that, there's an onboarding period. So there's about a week of onboarding where we collect information. And then following that, there's a week of virtual onboarding mandatory trainings, sessions with USAID that go over access for the to begin the medical and security clearance process, which Payne Fellows are obligated to undergo. All fellows must receive TS clearance and medical clearance for worldwide availability to participate in the fellowship program. There's a question here, is the overseas without the clearance? No, it's not. We do not send fellows overseas if you do not have, we cannot have you in a government embassy working on confidential projects without that TS clearance. So typically, about 97% of Payne Fellows receive their both TS clearance TS clearance and medical clearance prior to going overseas, which is why, again, the clearance process begins within the first couple of weeks once you're notified that you're an award recipient, right? So if we are looking at January 24th here, about 2nd, 3rd week of February, our fellows have already started the equip or all that process for to begin those processes. Fellows who aren't issued their TS, their full TS clearance, there is the potential of them being offered a temporary clearance, but that is at the discretion of the Department of State as they handle the entire clearance process. It's out of USAID's hands. So the earlier you start, the better. So do not delay when we do those sessions and you are awarded the fellow. There's a question here. Does having dual citizenship hinder your eligibility to participate in this program? I'm Mexican American. No, not at all. We have several dual citizens who are current Payne Fellows and several who have matriculated in are Payne alum and working currently for USAID, right? The important piece here to note is that from the moment you get your the Payne, if you're awarded the Payne Fellowship as a dual citizen, you must now use your American passport moving for any personal travel that you do, any travel when it comes to overseas internship, like once you apply to the Payne Fellowship program, right? You must be using your American credentials. You cannot, and I strongly do not, because again, remember, our fellows undergo the TS. You're going through top secret security clearance process. Do not travel under your other national passport if you're doing personal travel or travel for school, etc. But yes, dual citizens are absolutely welcome to apply. We are just about at time. I see another question here. This will be the last one I will take. I'm going to drop in my email address for those of you who have additional questions. Please feel free to email me directly. You. Okay, and the question here, if an applicant gets accepted to the fellowship in graduate schools he or she applied to, I wonder if the Payne Fellowship would notify the graduate schools. So I think if I don't understand the question exactly. So remember that all applicants should be looking at graduate programs, right? And applying to graduate school separately from the graduate fellowship, our fellowship program, right? Because you have to meet the entry requirements of the program that you're applying to still. So the US, any graduate program there. We do send notification to our graduate program partners, right? Because they're partners with our program on who our awarded fellows and finalists are, because in some cases, some of the graduate program partners extend offers to finalists and the finalists who might not have been extended the actual award, right? So again, from Payne staff, we do send notification to the graduate program partners on who our finalists and who our fellows, our awarded fellows are. But that is the applicants, you as applicants yourself should be applying to graduate school separately and, should be indicating, that you've received this prestigious fellowship award. Some work on your end that you have to do. Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you all so much again for joining the 2025 Payne Fellowship Overview webinar. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to email me directly. I included that email address in the chat there. And be sure to review our website as well as the resources provided during the session today, being the USAID backstop resource and the list of our 2024 updated graduate program partners and affiliates. With that, I thank you all.
Thank you.